I am in Chichen Itza, and this is, as you saw, the UNESCO Heritage Site. And it's just for one of the big highlights that you're going to see here, which is just right there. Chichen Itza is a wonder of the world, but what's crazy isn't the scale, it's how they did it. The Mayans built this entire city without metal tools, pack animal, or wheels. Today, we're figuring out how they carved this civilization out of pure stone. I told you in the beginning as that the Mayans were a brilliant culture or civilization. One of the reasons is that they were great astronomers. They were able to make calendars, and this is the type of calendar that also, it is believed that the end of the world in 2012, it was their calendar that kind of predicted, it was interpreted that way. Here in this pyramid that has been called El Castillo by the conquistador because of its sheer size, you have different stages, and you have 91 steps. 91 steps on each side, which makes how much? 365, the number of years in 1 year. That gives you the relationship that they have with the time and how precise they were able to get as mathematicians and astronomers. By the way, this one is clearly this pyramid is also aligned. So in the solstice, you would be able to see the shape of the Quetzalcoatl, the snake, along the stairs. You might wonder what you can find on the top of it. They used to visit it, but it's closed now. On the top of it you can find a jaguar with jade eyes, but unfortunately you won't be able to see it. You can imagine here all the sacrifices that have been made on the top of this pyramid. They would take the heart of the people who have been sacrificed, the beating heart, to be dedicated to the gods, and then drop the body and who gets along the stairs. One of the latest discoveries about these pyramids in 2016 is that inside this one there are two hidden pyramids, a little bit like Russian dolls. And what happened actually is that in this place each new ruler would build somehow a new layer around the former pyramid, and at each time showing that they have higher might, higher power. Just like in some different kind of ruins, either Romans or Egyptians, all these buildings, all that stuff used to be painted, and many of these buildings here in Chichen Itza were painted in red. Hope you'll be able to see it here. I've been able to sneak information from guys. I didn't pay, haha. What you can see here is the depiction of a warrior. We know that he's a warrior because he has these weapons here along his pants. We can even see here some food. Here, a basket of tamales, which is a dish that is still currently eaten here in Mexico, mostly. It's I don't know what's inside, but it's some food, some stuff in leaves, a little bit like the Lebanese and the Middle Eastern people do. I am here in the field of the Juego de la Pelota, and this is basically the local sport, or some kind of arenas that were played here. It is believed that they would have a Lennox ball, and they would need to do some few exchanges, and by some kind of miracle they would try to get it through this hole. The two opposite walls, as you've heard, was a way to have some echoing. In principle, we're supposed to hear 7 echoes. See? People yelling. The very grim part of this game is that it is believed that losers would be sacrificed, beheaded actually. So yeah, the high society would watch these poor guys play. But to be sacrificed was not necessarily a punishment. In the culture, many of them also was considered as some kind of privilege. The worst way to die in among this culture was to die just from old age. Like the most boring death wasn't something that was very appreciated among these cultures. The Wall of Skulls, probably representing all the players who died and have been decapitated for losing. Curiously enough, on the very corner, the skull is represented from the front point of view instead of profile. Wow, it feels so good to have some shade. Here is probably one priest in the very middle here. If you can look close enough, you can see that he's holding the head of someone. So you have to keep in mind that the culture that have built all these monuments on everything on the Yucatan Peninsula had no iron tools. They do not use pulleys to use leverage to carry heavy weights. They did not have animals from which they can use their sheer power to lift things. No horses. Everything was made maybe by hand or using obsidian tools. We know for a fact that they had some jewelry with metal, some small figurines where they show wheels, but we have no traces that they would use real carts or that they would work with metal tools. And it makes this even crazier, all these sculptures that you've seen that were made basically without these tools. This cenote is called Cenote de los Sacrificios because they would make sacrifices here. They would drop the bodies, and this is how we found many remains under the water. That building on the very edge was probably the place from where they would drop them. And here you can find another mighty Quetzalcoatl going down the stairs of this temple. So this temple, I showed you, is actually built on a cave, and this cave we found the remains of 7 people. It's called the Temple of the Priest. This thing is what is called the observatory, because from the different windows around it you can see the different solstices. This is again a great example about their sheer skill in measuring time and astronomy. Of course, this site is not just made of temples and stuff, but it was clearly a place of life, because we found remains all around the area. Chichen Itza have been chosen because there have been 3 cenotes. One of them I've showed you not long ago, and it have been chosen because of the configuration of these cenotes. All this complex is called the monastery of the nuns, because apparently the conquistadors thought that the layout of all these small buildings was very similar to all the ones that they can find on the old continent. And even this building, and we can access it from behind, they call it the small church. And here the sculptures are really well detailed. When the Spaniards arrived here in the continent, they had to really rewire and change completely the culture of the people living here almost overnight. And so many traditions have been either eradicated, or they have tried to take them and modify them. Typically the tradition of the piñatas, the small animals with made of paper that you can hit with the stick. They have reused this as a way to somehow remove your sins. Of course, all the work that has been performed of, let's say, brainwashing, or at least try to convert all the local populations from their religion that involved cannibalism, that involved human sacrifice, into monotheistic religion and Christianity, was made by a huge army of priests, basically, and especially the Jesuits. They had huge role in establishing the modern Spanish society in the Latin American world. And here you can see an example of a convent in Valladolid. The Mayans were a very great culture in terms of sciences, whether it's math, whether it's astronomy, and they also made their own writing that was the same style as hieroglyphs. It's basically on drawn signs.
Unfortunately, the priests decided to destroy, to burn all of these, somehow erasing the memories, because they would write their own history on this, on the scriptures, and to really write things down, like the Greeks, for example. Luckily, we still found some scriptures, but the vast majority of it has been burned. Of course, not only the Jesuits have been involved, but all different orders of priests. And the example that you see here is the one that have been made by the Franciscans in 1560. Remember, 1521 was the destruction and the capture of Tenochtitlan, the capital of current Mexico. And this basically happened only 40 years later.